the Vote Common Good rally, Faith, Hope, and Love for a Change on Election Day. My name's Brandon Pfeiffer. This is my friend Daniel Dietrich next to me. Hey! We're going to play a song for you and ask you to sing along. Your part is really easy. It goes like this. You ready? It's Everybody's Got. I'll teach it to you. Here we go. Everybody's got. Everybody's got. Everybody's got. Everybody everywhere with glory found. Think you can handle that? Okay, let's give it a try. Everybody's got a sidewalk to walk on. Everybody's got a road to go down. Everybody's got a somewhere to get to. Everybody everywhere with glory found. Everybody's got a sidewalk to walk on. Everybody's got a road to go down. Everybody's got a somewhere to get to. Everybody everywhere with glory found. Everybody's got a sidewalk to walk on. Everybody's got a road to go down. Everybody's got somewhere to get to. Everybody everywhere with glory found. Yeah, everybody everywhere with glory found. With everybody everywhere with glory bound.
Now, friends, we have been traveling around this good country, 64 cities. This is our 65th time since January 2nd that we've been pulling small groups of people together around this country to remind them that there's change that's coming on Election Day. Now, friends, this big bus of ours, we pulled up outside of the White House on January 2nd because we wanted to send a message to the current inhabitant of the White House that the people in this country have been paying attention and that change is going to be coming on Election Day. And with all of your good support and all of your good cheer, we're going to pull this thing up on November 3rd right up outside the White House to be sure that the person in the White House hears the truth about what's going on around this country. Now, you might ask yourself, what causes a group of people to travel around inside of this bus from January until March? And then, of course, we had to make a break like everybody else from March until the middle of August. And then we got back on the road and we did all these events. We even did a walking pilgrimage from Charlottesville, Virginia, all the way to Washington, D.C., 130 miles with hundreds of people, walked along the highways because we knew that there needed to be a racial reckoning and there needed to be a civil reckoning in this country. So we're trying to raise awareness because there are things happening in this country that we know we cannot tolerate any longer. Now, we call this the Faith, Hope, and Love for a Change on Election Day tour. I'm a pastor from Minneapolis. Some of us come out of the religious tradition. Some of us are just people of good civic engagement. And we want to say to all people, but especially to the religious people in this country, that you've been hearing some things that don't sit so well with your soul, and you don't have to get bossed around by the Republicans any longer. So you've been hearing people say, like we have, that to truly be a Christian, you have to vote for a Republican. Now, I don't know if you've been hearing that, but I promise you we hear it. We put up ads on the internet. We put up billboards in different cities so people call our phone number. People send us messages, and they're saying it all the time. I got 3 messages today telling me that if you're truly a Christian, you can only vote for Donald Trump. Now, we are here to remind people that just isn't so. So if there's people in your Facebook feeds, if there's neighbors down the street, if there's people at your work, and that's what they've been hearing, I promise you, they need you to speak up. They need you to remind them, even if you want to say, you know, one day I sat in a parking lot outside of the IBEW Union Hall, and the cars were honking when they went by, and I remember being reminded that there's some truth-telling in this country, and it's that you can be a Christian and not vote for this Republican. In fact, I'm going to do all I can to cajole you and to encourage you and to get you to vote for Joe Biden on Election Day. But if that's something you just can't do, we just beg you to not vote for the man that's in the White House. Now, you've been hearing that man in the White House tell you that the news is fake, and we're here to remind you that the news is good. You've been hearing him tell you that it's all about America first, but those of us who come from the Christian tradition, we like to remember that you care for the least of these, and you don't put yourself first in anything. You've been hearing a man say that, well, it's all about me stacking the court with the right kinds of judges, and we're here to remind you that you could gain the whole Supreme Court and lose your very soul, Republican Party. You've been hearing him say, I want to close down the border so I can separate the families, and we're here to remind you that which God has brought together, no one should ever separate. You've even heard him say, I can shoot somebody in the middle of Fifth Avenue and not lose any support. We're about to remind him that he's going to lose plenty of support on November 3rd. Amen? Hey, you've been hearing him say it's all about a tax break, and we're here to remind you that you can't go off serving two masters. You've got to care for the least of these in this country. You've even heard him say, as callous as he can be, that it is what it is, when he's reminded that nearly 250,000 people have died of a very disease that he's had. And we're here to be reminded that we need to bind up the brokenhearted, mourn with those who mourn, and then respond in a way that's going to heal this country. Because we have two pandemics happening in this country. We have one that's affected the White House, and we have one that's coming from the White House, and we're going to do something about both of them. And some of us have been told, you should keep it quiet when it comes to politics, and you should keep it quiet when it comes to your faith and not bring the two of them together. But we're here to remind you to let your little light shine everywhere you can. Now, friends, we're not here to convince anyone that Donald Trump is a failed president. This man is like a self-cleaning oven. He does all the work for you. You've seen it. We've all seen it. We could spend all of our time reminding you how he's not up for the job, how he's a bad businessman, how his daily levels of nonsense and discord. We could remind you how dangerous he is with his denials and dithering and doing nothing around the COVID crisis. We don't have to remind you of his crassness and his corruption and his cruelty, how he's a hazard to the planet and everyone who lives on it. You know about the kids in cages and soldiers with targets on their back and corrupt leaders and advisors and his consorting and bribing other governments. We could tell you about his daily disregard for decency and honor. But friends, we're not here to remind you how bad he is. We're here to remind you how good you are. We want to remind you to vote for the common good, to dig down deep and to find that goodness. Now, as I mentioned, I'm a pastor, and as a pastor, I believe that every person is a beloved child of God. Nothing you can do about it. You don't have to earn it. You can't lose it. You're the light of the world and the salt of the earth. In fact, Donald Trump is the light of the world. But not every light of the world should be the president of the United States, and this man is not up for the job. He needs to take his dim little light and move on and stop bothering the good people of this country. So friends, I want to also remind you that we're not here to tell Republicans not to be Republicans. We have a lot of Republicans that watch our live streams every day. Sometimes they show up at our events. Sometimes they show up in big crowds called the Proud Boys and try to shout us down and drive their trucks through our events. So we know that there's Republicans who are listening to us, so we're not asking you not to be a Republican. But we are asking Republicans to do the right thing and not vote for this joker on Election Day like they did last time. So we'd encourage you to do the same thing. And we like to run a bipartisan event. Now, some people accuse us of it being a Biden partisan event because we're asking Republicans and Democrats and independents and anarchists and Green Party members, and we want everybody to vote against Donald Trump on Election Day. So that's our kind of bipartisan event that we want to be running. And we also want to encourage you. So today, we hope that you feel like you're the choir. Some people ask us, do you feel like you're preaching to the choir? And we like to say, well, we hope so, because the choir in this country is getting tuned up to sing a song on Election Day. So speaking of songs, you got Dan, you got Brandon, they're going to sing too. You got Genesis, one of the top poets in America. She's going to be here sharing with us. You're going to hear from Vanessa. You're going to hear from Nick. We're going to rally you up. We're going to try to recruit you into a whole bunch of things. So don't just sit back and enjoy, but sit back and feel like you've got some friends here in this parking lot that want to take you along in this ride with us. Thanks so much. We really appreciate you being here. Here's our friend Dan Dietrich.
There's a world at war, caught in suffering, silent casualties. Oh God, grant us peace. In these sleepless nights, I can hardly breathe. Despite brutality, I know that we'll be free. I know that we'll be free. So let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love is us to see, we'll all be free. Yeah. So let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love is us to see, we'll all be free. Oh, we'll all be free. In these desperate times, love will hold us here. Love will hold our hands, teach us to have no fear. So we lay our hate down to wash their feet. And when we see our brothers, oh, we'll all be free. Yes, we'll all be free. Sing it if you want. So let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love there's us to see, we'll all be free. Let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love there's us to see, we'll all be free. Yes, we'll all be free, and we'll be free. Free, we'll all be free. Yes, we'll be free, 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 free. We'll all be free. Oh, we'll be free, free. We'll all be free. Oh, we'll be free, free. We'll all be free. Yeah. Let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love there's us to see, we'll all be free. Let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love there's us to see, we'll all be free. Yeah, we'll all be free. Oh, we'll all be free. Yes, we'll all be free.
Hey, thank you, Dan. Hey, we're really glad to see all of you today, not only because it's a beautiful day and we love being in Atlanta, Georgia, but because you wouldn't believe this, but a lot of people tell us no when we ask them to be part of the Faith, Hope, and Love for a Change on Election Day tour. We hear it from pastors. I get a hold of my friends and we reach out to them and we say, hey, could we do an event in your parking lot? And they say, we get a little nervous when you start talking about politics. We need to stay out of it. And then we reach out to some political friends and we say, hey, could we do a little event with you? And they say, well, we're not sure about COVID and we understand that deeply. And they say, we're not sure about if we can connect, in these times, and not sure about religion. Everybody gets nervous. You start talking about religion, you start talking about politics. And so we hear a lot of no's. In fact, we've been traveling around so long that we got kicked out of a Goodwill parking lot in Sioux City, Iowa, if you can believe it. We're the Vote Common Good group, and they kicked us out of the Goodwill parking lot. So we get a lot of no's. But what fills up our hearts a little bit is when we get a yes. And you know who said yes to us? Well, you all did. All of you did. Look around, a bunch of yes men and women sitting around here, a bunch of faith, hope, and love yes people. We love it. We love seeing you and love having you here. I'll tell you else who said yes to us instantly. Didn't hesitate for a minute, and that's Billy Honor right over here. Billy, thank you for all your good work in this area. He's a very important voice. We're so glad you're here. Would you come up and tell the good people about what's brought you here? Now, friends, we have little covers that we put on all these little microphones of ours because we're real nervous about what we're spreading when it comes to our world. So you get your own little shower cap on there, Billy. So we're super glad to have you and really appreciate you being here. Thanks for being with us, my friend.
Thank you, Doug, and appreciate all your good work. Come on, let's give a hand for Doug. Been a tireless worker for a long time, even before this, and helping to be a progressive and important voice for people like myself who work in ministry. I'm so glad that you're all here. Listen, I want to welcome you. For those of you who are not from Atlanta, this is a city of good trouble. Did you know that, right? This is a city of good trouble. Our dearly departed John Lewis, who was a congressman who represented, this is in the district he represented, the 5th district, was one who talked about good trouble. What you're doing today, your being here today is a part of what he was talking about. And that's when people of goodwill get involved in the civic process to express their voices through faith, hope, and love to create change in systems that desperately need it, right? That's what good trouble is. It's when that we decide that we're not going to take things as they are, that we're not going to allow for the status quo, whatever that might be at any particular time, to dictate what our moral witness is. When we decide we're going to stand up, that is what good trouble is. And listen, I want to tell you, you are sitting right now in a state that is primed and ready to shock America. Primed and ready to shock America. So we couldn't be happier that the Vote Common Good family is here, because I represent a group called the New Georgia Project Action Fund in this case. And what we do is we connect people of faith. I specifically connect people of faith, but people all over this state to the work of civic engagement to help build a progressive, powerful infrastructure. We've registered 400,000 people to vote in Georgia alone in the last 6 years. We have a network of faith leaders that includes rabbis, imams, Unitarian Universalists, all types of folks are all together, and they work with me every day to make sure that we have a moral witness in this city. We have networks that stretch as far south as Savannah to Augusta to Atlanta and all around. And I want you to know that on November 3rd, you're already seeing it, but you're going to see the power of the progressive network that we've been building all over this state. And we're going to send a message to Washington, D.C. that people in the South, listen, the South is rising up. Did you know that? A new South is rising up. And this new South that's rising up is going to send a message that we're for decency, we're for equality, we're for racial equity, right? We're for accepting new American immigrants without terrorizing them. We're for fair and equal elections. We're for well-funded elections. We're against voter suppression and for more voter access. We are for the new American majority taking its place, its rightful place in this country. And we're going to send that message, and I'm so glad that you're all here. And I hope that you'll leave here and continue to take this message to all of your friends and let them know that the work is not done. The work is not done. Listen, I'm telling people, I know there are a lot of polls out there right now. Forget the polls. Finish the job. Finish the job. Vote early. Vote on November 3rd. Drop your absentee ballot off. Finish the job, right? And then we'll turn around and we'll thank God together for the change that's going to come. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Doug. Thank you to the Vote Common Good.
Hi. Hi, Arrow. Hi. How's everybody feeling today? Oh, I love the energy. Speaking of the South rising again, I reign from Mississippi. I know you're probably wondering, where's her twang? Where's the Southern twang go? Brooklyn took it. Brooklyn took it. But yeah, I'm a hip hop artist and activist from Biloxi, Mississippi, y'all. And in terms of my activism, I've been focused on removing the Confederate emblem from the Mississippi state flag for the last 5 years. Yeah, that's right, you can clap for it. I'm really proud to announce that as of June 30th, 2020, Mississippi retired that flag. It's gone. After 120 years flying, y'all, it's the last state to have the Confederate emblem in the state flag. So I say all that because although I came in on the tail end, I've been doing that for about 5 years, my ancestors have fought against that flag and white supremacy and Confederate ideology. My collaborators have fought ferociously for that flag to come down. And it did. I didn't think it would happen in my lifetime. So I'm here to tell you, I bear witness that change is coming. It's happening right now, y'all. And I know sometimes it's hard to see, because it's slow. It's like we take 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. But I bear witness from Mississippi to tell y'all today that change is happening. And if it can happen in Mississippi, it can happen all across America. Can I get an ashe? Because Mississippi is a microcosm of our nation. Police exoneration, mass incarceration, black and brown bodies, a commodity. Mothers separated from babies, border policy. It's like the White House is painted in the Klan's ideology, and our leadership is exploiting white poverty. Keeping us separate and divided, gay versus straight, white versus black, based off of fear and far from the facts. See, I hail from a state called the mighty Mississippi. It's the land of unsolved murder mystery. I'm triggered by the trauma in my own family history. Because my dad was only 5. He was only 5 when the Klan drive-by bust bullets into his house with 6 children inside. On the back of the truck, a Confederate flag flying high. And these are the truths that some choose to deny. See, Mississippi, like America, eats your child and mine. The white supremacist lie is a prison of their own design. Some have forfeited their humanity in order to deny mine. Because white supremacy is a lie. Some have accepted it, a Confederate curse they inherited. Bigotry is blinding and their fear of the other has blocked their own blessings from their sisters and brothers. Outrage, fatigue, I'm screaming, I can't breathe. From the top, it trickles down, from my judges to police. Because the illusion of freedom is far more dangerous than any jail cell or cramped cages. Yes, Mississippi is a microcosm of my nation, where cowards replace white sheets with fake avatars, repeating their parents' folklore, tooth fairy, Santa Claus. The history's whitewashed. Google black codes and bylaws. In the comment section, sound off, sound off. Lord, they sound off. Don't they, Doug? They call me a nigger, a bitch, or a dyke. You call me whatever you like. I've been through worse in this fight, and the hatred in their words just proves that I'm right. Because Mississippi is a microcosm of a country that always needed me but never wanted me. My melanin and skin is a sin sentenced to build your economy? Pack the prisons. Fill the quota, make us felons, never voters, travel bans and deportation, killer cops, no resignations. Just federal indictments and mock trials, you see. My heart bleeds as that billboard reads, "Make America white again," as my favorite rapper concedes. Kanye, making me question everything that I believe. But still, I love America, I do, because I have hope. Some choose to jump ship, and some steer the boat. Yeah. See, I know that love and humanity lives in the smile of every child, in the heart of every kid. So be brave enough to break the curse. We need you at the polls, out in droves, fighting against this bigot you oppose. Study law, run for office, make a call, write your Congress, use your voice and choose a march. Ruth is gone, grab the torch. Read a book, write a rap. Just speak with truth and deal with facts, please. Freedom and justice are under attack. You see, alt-right affiliation of Trump's administration, Confederate infiltration, neo-Nazi showing faces. Just fueling the fear and the hatred while expanding their corporations. Do you see now how Mississippi is a microcosm of my nation? I'm Genesis B, y'all. Thank you.
Years, got a few friends I can trust. I've got a couple more, baby, but we don't talk that much. I've got a woman, thank God, she's the best I've ever seen. Well, she keeps me rolling like an 18-wheel machine. And I'm on a roll. Hey, America, see, I'm looking for a sign. Hey, America, just a little sign of life. See, I'm an Indiana boy with a heart that won't sit still. Yeah, my cup is running over, but I still ain't got my fill. So won't you pray for me, Mary, that I keep my spirit right? Can you help me, Jesus, when I wanna give up this fight? I'm on a roll. I'm rolling on. Yeah, I'm on a roll. Hey, America, be our light. Hey, America. Hey, America. Hey, America.
So I have been on a little break, but I'm back on the tour today. I've been up since 1:30 this morning, so bear with me. It is good to be here. So my name's Vanessa, and I am an artist and a pastor and a wife and a mom. And my son is here on the tour too. He's a roadie. And so I got this cool experience where I got to take him to see the little Bible college where his parents met and his grandparents met. And I got to show him around, so that was pretty cool. And I had a really good time in that little Bible college. It was one of those places where you weren't allowed to dance, you weren't allowed to smoke or drink or go to movies or play cards, or they had a lot of rules. But I still had a really good time, and you got to understand that to me, that little Bible college was really fun compared to where I came from. You see, where I grew up, my parents sent me to a little private Christian school. And that they were trying to, give us the best education that they could. And they wanted it to be a good place for us. They wanted us to be able to, just be able to grow into our lives. Unfortunately, the only way I know how to describe that place is that it was a dark place. So, for instance, when I was 6 years old, I have a little 6-year-old daughter who's got curly hair and freckles and super curious and into everything. But when I was her age, we were walking through the hallway at school, and we were walking to the drinking fountain, and I reached up and touched a bulletin board because I was curious about that little bumpy edge around it. And my teacher took me by the shoulder and marched me around the corner and put me in a dark room and locked the door. It was a place that we were being watched all the time. It was a place where they believed in drilling you on everything. And so I remember we had penmanship class, and in penmanship class they made us write, "It's never right to do wrong in order to get a chance to do right. It's never right to do wrong in order to get a chance to do right. It's never right to do wrong in order to get a chance to do right." And they were making rules all the time. Executive order after executive order. One year, they made a rule that you couldn't wear socks and pantyhose at the same time because that looked too much like Madonna. Seriously. Yeah. So you can understand why I had fun in Bible college. It was a lot easier. So 4 years ago, I was at that little Bible college for my husband and I, our 20th class reunion. We've been in ministry for the last 25 years, all over the country. We live in Arkansas now. So we were there for the reunion, and we had a really good time. We went back to the hotel, and we turned on the TV because we were going to crash. And we turned on the news. And the news that night was the Access Hollywood tape. Do you remember that? Yeah, the Access Hollywood tape, where Trump was bragging about what he could do. He didn't have to ask for a woman's permission. He didn't have to respect her boundaries or her personhood. He could just take whatever he wanted. And I remember thinking at the time, based on all of those places where I had been and all those rules that they had made for me and my body and what I was allowed to do, that they were never gonna allow this, right? So I thought, good, it's all over. All this nonsense about Trump is done, right? And you know how that went. And so I woke up that day after the election, and I was heartsick. And with my friends, we began to think about, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? My connections, all that I knew, were Republicans. That's who I was. I grew up voting Republican my whole life. That's what my family did. That's what my church did. That's all I knew. And it was like my team had completely betrayed me. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know where I belonged. Well, I'll tell you, I belong to this group. Yeah. So a year ago, August 3rd, I remember it very clearly because all of my kids were home, my two big college kids, my high schooler, and my little bitty, and we all decided to go to Walmart and go back to school shopping like people do all over the country. And I had the kids all in the car, in the ugly mom van, and I held up the camera on my phone to take a little selfie and post it on Instagram. And when I brought the phone down and looked at it, I saw that there was a breaking news headline. And there had been another shooting. Another shooting. And this shooting was in El Paso. And as the news began to leak out the details about this particular shooting, I began to be more and more and more haunted by this story. You see, we found out that this shooter, inspired by his dark lord, Trump, had laid out his guns, spelling out Trump's name, inspired by his violence and his hate. And then we were told that the shooter, eyewitnesses said that the shooter would go through the store and he would save his bullets. He would pass over white people and he would save his bullets for brown bodies. And my heart broke. You see, my third child, my Charlie, is a beautiful Latina. She's adopted. She has chocolate brown eyes and straight, thick black hair, and she sings like an angel, and she draws, and she's the glue that holds our family together. She's everybody's favorite. She has no idea why. We all just adore her. And I realized if we had been shopping in El Paso instead of Arkansas that day, that shooter would have chosen to shoot my child. And I was so troubled and I was so haunted by this story that I got on a plane and I flew to El Paso because I had to make sense of what was happening to my country. And there in El Paso, I went and I saw that long memorial where people were still coming to grieve. It's the length of a football field. And I saw that horrible, ugly wall at the border. You know, New York has Lady Liberty, and our southern border has an ugly, rusty wall. And then we saw a border detention center where Homeland Security had detained families and where little children were being separated from their mummies and daddies. And then I understood. I understood why I cared so much. You see, I know what it feels like to be trapped in a dark place and to not have somebody to help when you're scared, not have somebody to look out for you. You see, that school where I went, we talk about this president being a monster. Well, our school had a monster too. See, if you went out of the classroom and you had to take a note to the office, you had to go down a long hallway and then around a corner where nobody could see, and there was a little room there at the bottom of the stairs, and that's where the monster lived. And the monster preyed on the little girls that would pass by that door when nobody was looking. And that monster would take whatever he wanted. He would satisfy his own desire and not care about those people, those little lives. And those stories leaked out, and they asked for help. And those men, those good religious voters who ran that school, they decided to give that man a love offering and send him on his way. so that he could go on and do it again. I know that my story is not unique. I know that everywhere I go, there are people who have lived this experience who know what this feels like. Evil exists. We know that it does. But there's a special kind of evil when you see something happening and you don't do something about it. See, the last 4 years for many of us have been like a walk by the room where the monster is. We have been traumatized by his violence and his language and how he's just groped us with his horrible tweets and his overreach. You see, back then we needed a pastor or a priest, and instead we got a pedophile. And now we need a president. We're in a pandemic. We need a protector. We need a peacemaker. And instead, we have this piece of work. So I am asking you, do not give this man the love offering of your vote. I want children to be safe. I want babies to be able to be born. You can't make the world safer for babies by making it more unsafe for women. I am a mother. I'm a spiritual mother. I'm an adoptive mother. And I'm a biological mother. And I am asking you to vote like a mother.
Thank you, Vanessa. I grew up in a similarly conservative evangelical world. And my experience was overall very positive. You know, I learned to take the words of Jesus seriously, and there was good people around me that taught me how to love my neighbor well. And that's why I was so confused in 2016 when 81% of white evangelicals voted for a man that looks nothing like the Jesus I learned about growing up. I learned things like Matthew 25, what you do unto the least of these matters. Learned things like the fruit of the Spirit, that peace and patience and kindness and goodness are things that matter. And in the years since his election, at every turn, trust the words in red to guide my steps through a wicked world. I assumed you'd do the same, so imagine my dismay when I watched you lead the sheep straight to the wolves. You said to love the lost, so I'm loving you now. You said to speak the truth, so I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome, injustice roll down. Oh, they started putting kids in cages, ripping mothers from their babies. Yet I look to you to speak on their behalf. Oh, but all I heard was silence, or worse, you justified it, singing glory, hallelujah, raise the flag. See, your fear, it turned to hatred, but you baptized it with language torn from the pages of the good book. You weaponize religion, and you wonder why I'm leaving to find Jesus on the wrong side of your walls. You said to love the lost, so I'm loving you now. You said to speak the truth, so I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome, and justice roll down. Come home, come home. You're better than this. You taught me better than this. Come home, come home. You're better than this. You taught me better than this. Come home. Better than this. Oh, you taught me better than this. Come home, come home. You said to love the lost, I'm trying to love you now. You said to speak the truth, that's why I'm calling you out. Why don't you live the words that you put in my mouth? May love overcome, injustice roll down. May love overcome, injustice roll down. May love overcome, justice roll down. May love overcome, and justice roll down. Thank you so much. I'm Daniel Dietrich. Stick around.
Sometimes we make these guys do an awful lot of work. Brandon has to not only sing up here with Dan. By the way, that's the first time they've ever done that song together. We've been traveling together all this time, so super fun to see you guys do that. I like to call this our Harvey Milk moment. Now, some people have said to me, you say that all the time. I don't know what you mean. If you don't know the Harvey Milk moment, Google Harvey Milk for a minute. Harvey Milk was an advocate and a recruiter for the LGBTQ community in San Francisco, and he'd always come to meetings like this. He'd say, hey, I'm not just here to have you encourage us, I'm here to recruit you. So these are the Harvey Milk moments. We're here to recruit you. Now, I gotta tell you, we take this pretty seriously. In fact, it was back in January, we were riding in the back of this bus, and a friend of mine sent a text message and said, hey, someone named Dan just put together a song that I think you might like. So he sends me a link to a YouTube video of that song. At that time, it had about 200,000 views in the first week. Now it's got over 700,000 views. So I said, hey, this seems like a really great song. So I sent a message to Dan and said, hey, Dan, would you be interested in coming around with us? We do this thing, traveling around and talking to some of the same kinds of people that you're talking to. Dan says, sure. So I said, how about coming to Minneapolis and Holland, Michigan? That was in January. Now he's living on the bus with us, so we're not kidding around. And Vanessa told you that her son's a roadie, so we got Vanessa to come and do a talk. Now she's living on the bus with us. Well, we've only got 17 days, so I guess if you're going to tag along with us, you got to sign up pretty early if you're going to come along. Now the bus is full, but we'd love to have you come with us. And look, there's a couple ways you can be with us. We probably can't have you living in the bus, but as we like to say, we'd like to have you in the tank with us. And what we mean is you make a donation, we turn it into fuel, because there's 4 things that get us around this country. It's not just faith, hope, and love. Diesel's the 4th that gets us around the country. So you make a donation over there at the table, or you send us a Venmo. It's Vote Common Good on Venmo or PayPal, or use the QR code, or give us a check, or use your credit card over there. And we're going to turn that into a chance to go to the other cities we're going to. We're going to leave here and go up to Charlotte. Then we're going to go to Durham. Then we're going to be in Winston-Salem. And then we're going up into Canton, Ohio. And then we're going to go into Pennsylvania. We're going to spend the last days in Pennsylvania. But look, we'd also love for you to tell other friends or people that you know that we're coming. But most importantly, we want you to do whatever you can do. Look, we're doing the best we can. We're going to travel around. We're going to try to move 5% of white evangelicals and white Christians to move them over the line, because we've run the numbers in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in North Carolina, in Pennsylvania, in Florida, in Georgia. 5% of evangelicals switch their vote away from Trump. He doesn't win any one of those states. So we're doing the work we can. We just need everybody to do all the work that you can where you are. Because look, everyone's got to do their thing. We're living in that moment where it's all of the above, all hands on deck, everyone do your thing. So we promote these videos. We have a video of a woman who's the granddaughter of a person named Billy Graham that a lot of people know of. And she did a video with us and put out this video and said, I'm not going to vote for Donald Trump, and a lot of women like me feel like if you come from a background like mine, you have to do that. Her name's Jerusha. She stepped up and did hers. And then this morning I found out that Henry Winkler retweeted that video, and for someone like me that grew up in the 70s to have the Fonz give you a thumbs up on retweeting a video, that's a really great day, right? Everyone's got to do their thing, so find your thing and do it. You're going to give an hour of your time to be with us today, and we are so grateful for it. But would you dedicate an hour every day for the next 17 days and find a way to act? Look, talk to Billy. He's got stuff for you to do right here in town. We know that. We're going to go around right now. We're going to give you these little packets. What they're going to have in them are 15 postcards. 15 postcards and 15 mailing addresses to faith voters in North Carolina. What we want you to do is to write a personal postcard. You put the stamp on it with the address on the back, send it to their house, write anything you want. The front of it says, please join me in stopping Donald Trump on Election Day. Look, I promise you, there are people that don't have anyone in their world asking them not to vote for Donald Trump. We're going to give you the postcards. We're going to give you the mailing addresses. We know it's going to cost you the 50 cents for the stamp, but if you'd be willing to do that and mail that postcard, it goes a long way. I promise you, they work. These people find our phone number on Vote Common Good, they call us, and they read me the riot act about not violating the sanctity of their mailbox. So I promise you, people will get them, they will look at them, and for some people, it might be that little nudge that they need to get them over the top. Or maybe you want to go home with a yard sign that we have, or maybe you want to find another thing that you're going to do. In fact, is anyone doing something in the next 17 days that you want to tell other people about right now? Anybody got a plan? Anybody got a project that you're working on to help move some number of voters? Maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 5? Anybody doing that work? We'll see us over at the table. One more thing we're doing next week. It's next Saturday. It's a week from today. It's a citizen-led nationwide bake sale to save the U.S. Post Office. It's called Bake America Great Again. So go over there, sign up. Here's what you do. You bake baked goods, you sell them, you turn them into stamps, and it's a big media thing that we're doing all over the country with hundreds and hundreds of bake sales to make the point that we have a government that somehow wants to work against the best interest of the American people. So you can bake goods, you can send postcards, you can talk to friends, you can go walk in a march. Please find your thing and do it. We'd love to have you travel along with us any way that you can. We want you to feel like you're part of this movement. So if you've yet to text the word GOOD to 66866, we'd love for you to do that. You do that, and here's what's going to happen. It's going to ask you for your name and your email address. And then you know what's going to happen? We're going to email you. Now, I don't want you to feel like we're going to email you once a week for the next 2 weeks, because we're not. We're going to email you 5 times a week for the next 2 weeks. We hope that's okay. We're going to send you at least 10 emails in the next 17 days with ways you can be involved, things you can share, things you can spread, because we want everybody doing everything they can. So if you'd send the word good to 66866, that'll get you on our email list if you're not on it already. There'll be all kinds of things that you can do to be engaged or to introduce you to other groups. We'll share all these emails with you, Billy, if you're open to it, and sending stuff to these folks. Because, look, I come from Minnesota. And in Minnesota, I don't know if you know what happens when it snows. Sometimes the snow gets so high, it's higher than the wheels on the car. And when your car gets stuck in the snow in Minnesota, we've all learned how you get a car out of the snow. Maybe you've been in a place where your car's gotten stuck in the snow, or the same thing will happen in the desert. You get a big rut, and all of a sudden your car can't get out of the rut. So when you're trying to push a car out of the rut, you have to rock the car a little bit. And you'll start to feel like the car is just going to get out of the rut. And everybody knows that right about the time when the car is going to pull out of that rut, the person driving says, push! And everybody says, gun it! And you have to gun the car, and everybody pushes to pop it out. Because if people stop pushing, the car slides right back in the rut. And I got to tell you, that's what it feels like right now. The polls are telling us that this car is starting to rock out of that rut, but we are in a really deep rut. And this thing could get stuck. It's what we call bottoming out. It's when the snow gets so high that it's touching the frame of the bottom of the car and the wheels are just spinning. And you got to push the car to get those wheels to grab. Friends, we have got to push like we have never pushed before. Because if you don't remember 2016, on this same date in 2016, no one thought we'd be standing in this parking lot today. And we got these little sweeties walking around here, and they need to look at all of us when they're adults and say, did you do everything you could? So friends, do what you can. Do it with us, do it with anybody else, recruit your own thing. Thanks so much for being here. We got another song for you. We got a little encouragement from Nick, and then our poet laureate's gonna give you a little bit of hope for your life, getting you out of here. Thanks again.
Needs me. That we need. Oh, tell me where
Thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Dan. Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Brock, and it's good to be here in the city of trouble. Thank you to Billy for helping to host us, and thank you to you good folks for being here. So I'm hoping to take some of this good trouble to my hometown. I am from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And Grand Rapids, Michigan has historically been a stronghold for the Republican Party, where from 1884 to 2004, the Republican Party won all but 3 election cycles. That's 120 years and approximately 5 generations of a particular voting pattern passed down. My hometown is also well known for being a conservative Christian community. And by and large, what this has meant is that there has been a hyper-focused attention on making theological statements, creating confessions of faith, and practicing personal piety at the expense of doing justice, causing this good trouble, loving mercy, and walking humbly. So again, for generation upon generation, for at least till the late 1800s, a particular faith pattern has been passed down. So I have chosen to say no to the maintenance and certitude and complacency of this status quo. And what this means is that I have chosen to say no to the re-election and politics of Donald Trump. But in turn, this has provided me an opportunity to say yes to something new. Saying yes to vote common good, faith, hope, and love. Because they have provided for me the context, space, vocabulary, and most importantly, the permission to re-examine and reimagine how my faith in Jesus intersects my vote in politics. And so this new framework then, this new but old framework, the politics of Jesus, if you will, pivots upon our understanding of a 5-letter, 2-syllable word, power. And let me briefly explain this. In 2016, then candidate Donald Trump was on the campaign trail in Sioux City, Iowa. One of the most conservative Christian communities in the nation, a community not unlike my own, and perhaps similar to yours. And while he was there, he addressed a crowd of curious and eager white evangelicals, and this is what he said. Christianity is under a tremendous siege, whether we want to talk about it or we don't want to talk about it. He then continued, Christians make up the overwhelming majority of the country, and yet we don't exert the power that we should have. Christianity will have power. He then concluded, if I am in the White House, you're going to have plenty of power. I am going to represent you very, very well. You don't need anybody else. Remember that. In effect, though, and under the guise of becoming Christianity's newly appointed savior, Donald Trump wanted to cut a political deal for power with Christian voters and have them sign their name on the dotted line. And they did, to the tune of 81%, as Dan so eloquently pointed out for us. 81% of white evangelical voters and 60% of white Catholic voters. But the politics of Trump, Trumpism, a species of hysterical intolerance and oppression built on demagoguery, intimidation, and a cult of personality, sold us a bill of goods that was and continues to be a false, distorted, hijacked view of the Christian narrative for power found in the life and teachings of Jesus. In stark contrast to this Trumpism, the politics of Jesus undermines the meaning of power at every turn, even when lynched upon a tree, crucified. Both tactics used as a form of ethnic intimidation to enforce law and order, while the oppressor literally stands back and stands by. So it was this naked, sexually abused, brutalized, dehumanized, non-white Jesus who suffocated upon a cross, whereby the words, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe," fully embodies the crucifixion experience, because, and with a loud cry, Jesus breathed his last. And it is precisely this "I can't breathe" Jesus who was murdered under the heavy knee of a system that said his life does not matter, wanting his fledgling group of friends, religious scoffers, and elite government officials to re-examine and reimagine where power from above manifests in the streets below, in the public square, and in parking lots such as this one. You see, friends, the way Jesus died at the hands of first century Rome is as relevant and subversive for us today in 21st century America. Are you picking up what I'm putting down here, friends? The politics of Jesus, where on earth as it is in heaven, is not just a short form prayer to climb the rungs of the spiritual ladder, but it is also a public policy statement about how the space between heaven and earth becomes so razor thin that you could hardly differentiate between the two. And the framework of its constitution is summarized as thus, and you know it. Let the same mind be in you that was in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not regard equality with God as something to be exploited, but emptied himself, taking the form of a slave and being born in human likeness. And within this likeness, he became humble and obedient, even to the point of death, a death on a cross. And it is therefore that God highly exalted him. The way to transformational power is not through the ascent of our egos. It is not through the ascent of the stock's value or the worth of your 401k. It is not through the ascent of your religious institution or your church denomination. And it most emphatically is not through the ascent of your political party. Donald Trump cannot save you. Joe Biden cannot save you. The way to transformational power that transcends the powers and principalities of this world, that crosses the divide and gives new life to me, to you, and to us, begins when we recognize critical moments such as this one that call us to go beyond our own selfish needs for dominance, violence, and exploitation, so that resurrection becomes not just something that happened long ago or something that will happen in the near distant future, but is constantly going on in a reimagining here and now. In other words, your kingdom come, your will be done. In the final analysis then, Donald Trump is right. And I bet you didn't see that coming, and I didn't see that coming either. Because Christianity will have power, and plenty of it, It's just that he and his enablers have yet to conclude that Christianity already possesses it and has since long before 2016. For in the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh, and we have seen Jesus full of grace and truth. Friends, may you choose with your politics not to go right. And may you choose not to go left. But may you go deeper into the mind of Christ, who by the power of his work within us is able to do immeasurably more than all we could ever imagine. And may you seek faith, hope, and love for the common good, not just with your vote until November 3rd, but in everything that you do. My name is Nick Brock, friends. Peace be with you.
Thank you, Nick. Well, it's easy to get overwhelmed with how much is wrong in the world. And a few years ago, I wrote this song as a way to cling to the good things. And it's called If There's Good in This World. If there's good in this world, then show it to me, 'cause I can't find it. If there's love in your arms, then hold on to me, 'cause I need something. A reminder. To know, so I came in close and whispered to you the secret of how I can always smile thinking of you in the good times. Takes some work and takes some time. We can make it if we try. Takes some work and takes some time. All you've got to do is show me where to sign, 'cause I'm in for the long haul, much. Now back over to my friend Genesis B. Give her a hand, people.
This is one of the more quieter crowds that we've had. All right, we're about to close this down, y'all. But before we do, I just want to know that y'all are still with us. You're still with me. On the count of 3, I want you to say, I am awake. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So this might require a little bit of participation just in the beginning. So I'm going to ask you a question. It's not rhetorical. I would really appreciate a response. There's no wrong answer. Ready, kids? If Trump disappeared today, what would America do? A little louder. Party. What else? Cheer. Anybody else? What would America do? You looking at your phone right now, breaking news. Trump is gone. No one knows where he's at. Breathe, exhale. Okay, there's no wrong answer. I'm just curious because I found myself asking that question a couple months ago. Then I wrote this poem. If Trump disappeared today, what would America do? Would there still be all this commotion? Would America still worship money? Would we still pollute the oceans? What you think? Probably, right? Would we still imprison black men and shoot them down with no emotion? Would women still be the smartest in the room and still get passed up for promotions? What would America do if Trump no longer exists? Would we still destroy our planet for profit? Would we still have private prisons, the new slave trade and auction? Would men still write laws dictating what women do with our bodies, stripping away anatomical autonomy? Would we still shame women who use sex as commodity, but not shame men who buy sex and pornography? I'm gonna say it again. Would we still shame women who use sex as commodity, but not shame men who buy sex and pornography? Would we still turn a blind eye to all this hypocrisy? What would America do if it was up to you? Would you finally purge law enforcement of white supremacist bigots? I like that answer. Would you finally grant equal rights to poor whites and immigrants? Would preachers still use their pulpits to pimp our communities? Will boys still be boys, raping and assaulting with impunity? Would we still ignore the killing of trans folks? Because this is where America stands, folks. To know what would America do, I ask, what has America done? Well, for one, we massacred our native population. We did that. From the blood of black slaves, we built the richest of nations. And we waged war before, cried wolf with terrorist threats. Y'all remember weapons of mass destruction? Y'all remember that? It's crazy how quickly we forget. I've seen America burn crosses on the lawns of my father. I've seen America separate mothers and toddlers. I've seen Americans vote for men whose only moral is money. Men who appeal to the racism and sexism of my beautiful Christian country. So we searched for a savior to save us from the big orange goblin. Some magical Democrat that can solve all our nation's problems. But Trump is just a symptom of a money-hungry system that never had regard for our troops, no regard for the truth, no regard for the planet, and no regard for the youth. Trump was born into this, just like you and I. Trump is as American as apple pie. So I won't ask, what would America do? We know what America's done. Instead, I ask, what can America be if we step up in the days to come? Can it be a place where pharmaceutical riches do not result in more sickness, where corporations have constraint and cannot buy our politicians, where the money we use to wage war goes to healing Mother Earth or building shelter for the poor? I don't know, it's just a thought, y'all. A place where all synagogues are safe, where our Muslim brothers, sisters, and siblings are looked upon with grace, Where young girls can walk the streets without being harassed because young boys are taught to understand the traumatizing effect that that has. So what can America be? A place where someone who looks like me and loves like me can actually feel safe and free? Where black and brown women are not minimized and the image of us outside reflects the power of our insides. Our potential, our resilience, our imagination, and our brilliance. Because my ancestors fought for me to have a voice. They fought for me to have a vote. So I talk my shit and I cast my ballot. I honor them by doing both. Because they knew what America could be, but it starts with you and it starts with me. Because although he spews lies and his actions show cowardice, assigning that much power to any man will eventually render you. That's right. So don't ask, what would America do? Ask, what can America be? And the answer to that question, my friends, is solely up to you and me. I'm Genesis B.
Thank you, Genesis B. And I'll just have you know, we have watched Genesis B deliver that in parking lots and stages in front of very friendly crowds and very hostile crowds. And we really appreciate your truth-telling with us, Genesis B. Hey, we're going to finish up here by taking a little pledge together. And I just want to ask you to cast your ballot on Election Day or before. How many of you cast your ballot already? All right, I had the privilege of doing it too. I voted for Joe Biden. I don't know who you voted for. You're going to. I'd ask you to vote for Joe Biden, not because he's going to solve all of our problems. The president can't solve all our problems. But the president shouldn't be the problem, and we've got one who is, and we need to elect Joe Biden to be the next president of the United States. So I'd ask you to do so. Also ask you to engage in your Senate elections here in Georgia, of course. Our final bit is to ask you to take a pledge with us. It's what we call our Love and Politics pledge. Maybe you got one of these cards when you came in. If not, Brady will hand you one. We also put it over on these big banners over here. It asks you to do 4 things. It's not a pledge that we want politicians to take. We know politicians have to take a pledge when they swear an oath of office. This is for voters. It has 4 parts to it. Number 1 is that you will demand of all elected officials that they would act and comport themselves in a way consistent with love when they want to represent you. In their professional and public duties, that they would act in a way consistent with love. We don't think that's too much to ask. We think everybody who's going to represent you should act in a way of love. Secondly, the commitment is that you would call out politicians when they do and thank them for acting in a way of love. Third is you would call them out when they don't act in a way consistent with love and demand that they do so. And fourthly, that you would demand that every politician holds other politicians accountable when they don't act in a way of love. No more of this, I wouldn't tweet it that way kind of nonsense. It seems as if politics is the only industry that doesn't want to self-police. So we want you to demand of your politicians, they act in a way of love, you call them out when they do, you call them out when they don't, and that they hold one another accountable. We think we need more love in our country, more love in our lives, and more love in our politics. Amen? Now, on the back of this, we have a definition of love that we really like. It comes from the book of 1 Corinthians. Some of you might be familiar with this if you've showed up at a wedding. It's often recited at weddings as if love is only for our marital commitments. Now, it ought to be, but that ought to trip over into all the other parts of our lives. So this is our call and response part. So you stand up. Dan helps you on a little part. I help you on a little part, and it goes like this. You're going to say love 13 times in a row, and I'm going to read out loud a definition of love. So it goes a little something like this. Dan's going to lead you on the love. You got the easy part.
You ready for this?
I'm ready for this.
Love
Is patient.
Love
Is kind.
Love
Does not envy.
Love
Does not boast.
Love
Is not proud.
Love
Does not dishonor others.
Love
Is not self-seeking.
Love
Is not easily angered.
Love.
Now, friends, I just want you to insert the name of your favorite candidate in here or the other ones. And do you think the candidate currently in the Oval Office could say this is true of him? I don't think so. We need a little more
Love
that keeps no record of wrongs,
Love
that does not delight in evil, that
Love
rejoices with the truth,
Love
always protects, that
Love
always trusts, that
Love
always hopes,
Love
always perseveres. May we have a little more love with each other and a little more love in our politics. Friends, so glad that you're with us. Thanks. You can hang out in this parking lot all afternoon. We're here for another hour at least. We'd love to have you join us. Thanks for being with us today.
So let the light in, keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see, we'll all be free. Yeah. keep it shining. Let it break into the darkness. All that love dares us to see. We'll all be free. Oh, we'll all be free. Yes, we'll all be